Pain. We have all experienced it, learned from it, suffered because of it, and others will try to live their lives running away from it. There are debates about the existence of different types of pain. Most delve into the subtypes of physical and emotional pain, and for the sake of simplicity, in this video we'll take a glimpse at physical and emotional pain, and we'll take a special focus on the latter, and explain why we think that hurting is necessarily evil in our lives. So, what exactly is pain? In a nutshell, physical pain is a signal from our nervous system sent to us in the form of a burning, pinching, and mostly uncomfortable sensation to let us know that something is wrong in our bodies. That's the definition that we'll use for this video. But what about emotional pain? At first, it might sound obvious, as you may think of a sad moment in your life, moments of grief, or extreme frustration, but those are just examples, as there really isn't a consensus for its definition, but people have definitely tried to define emotional pain before.
The two definitions we like the most were that emotional pain is being aware of a disruption of your social circle and or not knowing who you are, whereas the other definition is the mental state that comes with a disparity between who you are and how you want to be. So if you'd like to see like the definitions without any modifications, you'll see them in the screen right now. For us, though, emotional pain is a state of mind that implies emotional distress as a response to others' actions, a change of our social circle, whether by others' choices, our own choices, or natural events such as death, or underlying mental conditions and or self-perception.
Physical pain taught most of us to be careful with our body. Although having a life without physical pain might seem as a paradise to some, there are many reasons why pain is important. The idea of not feeling physical pain has already been explored a lot before, as there are people with a condition that makes them unable to feel pain, called congenital insensitivity, and many videos and media have already discussed the importance of feeling pain or why not feeling pain could potentially be dangerous. Let's look at some instances where pain could be considered necessary. For example, when you're exercising, you rip apart your muscles in order for them to create more fibers to strengthen themselves and grow. A non physical example could be a bank robbery. Without the alarm notifying the police, there is just no knowledge of the robbery, allowing the thieves to go away. CIPA, or the congenital insensitivity to pain, is the disease that we were talking about earlier. This disease is a very rare and extremely dangerous condition. People with CIPA cannot feel pain, and many people with it die at a young age as they can suffer from effects like hyperthermia or suffering from injuries they just didn't notice and didn't tend to them. For this reason, we shall leave physical pain behind and go towards the interesting one, emotional pain. By taking a look at our definition of emotional pain, we can find a few ideas about why it is important. First of all, by feeling emotionally distressed by our self perception, we can work out what things we would like to change in ourselves. Although turning these negative feelings towards ourselves into accepting the fact that we aren't perfect is not easy. It's even harder with mental disorders that affect our self perception. But if we are able to live through this pain, we can push through it and come out on top. Even if it sounds easy on paper, there's actually a really hard thing to do, which is why we will later introduce to you TOT's Manual to Overcome Pain. Headed pending.
Another important aspect of our definition of emotional pain that shall be remarked again is this. Emotional pain is a state of mind of emotional distress as a response to others' actions. That's right, emotional pain, just as physical pain, is a response to distressing stimuli, and it has a threshold just as physical pain, because what one could find very painful, another one could just brush it off as a scratch. Theoretically, we could have an infinite scale for this threshold, and even if we can understand to a degree the pain of others, there are just some things that we will never be able to truly understand, simply because of different backgrounds and experiences. Thus, there are many problems with creating a scale of emotional pain. For example, where will it even start? At zero? What does zero even represent? We believe that zero represents comfort, but we have a whole video plan for comfort and where it slowly kills us. So, do we start at negative infinity maybe? What could negative numbers represent? Pleasure? Anti-pain? What even is that? I mean, choosing one answer would nullify the other possible correct answers, and it wouldn't consider everything about emotional pain. We believe that the biggest problem is that our experiences, background, identity, and pain tolerance overlap when scaling pain, and they affect how we perceive pain and form our definition of it. against how odd another one feels it, turning it into a conundrum of what happens when we can't understand someone else's pain, as we haven't experienced the same. But to what extent can we understand the pain we haven't felt?
Let's look at an example of what we're talking about: discrimination. Yes, this can vary greatly, but most of us know how it feels to be left out. And the reason why someone might be discriminated against varies immensely. But we know the baseline, whether it be racism, an insensible phobia, or some suffix word, age, or whatever. And although it varies depending on the reason, we can reach out to that feeling and understand part of one's pain. So, just as we don't experience the same physical pain as others, we don't experience emotional pain as others. But we can only understand and empathize with it through listening at how another person describes their pain. Only when they can scale their pain and compare against it, and only through comparisons can we actually understand it. But when we can only trust another person that opens up to us about their pain. After all, showing vulnerability isn't easy for most people.
We believe that emotional pain's most important advantage is the ability to be the most important driving force in our lives: motivation. The pain and the fear of failing, for example, motivates us to do better, at least if we really care about what we're fighting for. The pain of starting a conversation, at least for some people, becomes worth it if we make a new friend. But just as pain can be a driving force, it can also be a crashing force, which I don't know if it exists, but yeah, a crashing force. A great pain could also get you demotivated instead of giving you motivation.
A big example of this could be Whiplash. To those who haven't watched the movie, Whiplash follows a young drum student at the Stop University of Music, Andrew Neiman. He encounters a teacher that causes huge emotional distress to pretty much every of his students, at the point at which he is truly feared on campus. Spoiler warning, near the end of the movie, the teacher reveals that the only reason as to why he behaved the way he did, and he states that no one actually understood it. He argued that a truly great student will never be demotivated from bettering themselves. Of course, this is an example of just how bad this can get on a negative end. At the end, Neiman becomes that great musician which his teacher approves of, and this could be seen as a win, as he overcame the pain. But was the success worth the sheer amount of deliberate pain inflicted upon him? Let us know if you would like a deep dive on this. Personally, I don't think it was worth it, especially because the pain inflicted on him was deliberate and brutal. And it's hard to explain if you haven't seen the movie, so I would really recommend that you watch it and form your own opinion. A good example that could cue the viewer as to why the ending of Whiplash wasn't a positive one could be the stare that Neiman's dad gives to him. He looks at his son not proudly because of his drum solo, but he looks concerned.
Well, that's up to Neiman to decide, not us. Was that epic drum solo worth the price? Yeah, he was able to get through the pain and gain a valuable lesson, just as Edward said in FMA. But if I were Neiman and my inspiration were as strong as his, with the drums, for example, math, I love math, so would be unbelievable. But yeah, I think it will be worth it, at least for me. But how could two siblings have such different opinions on such a thing? Well, it all boils down to how complex this matter is. It really overlaps with Neiman's passion for the drums and the joy of him becoming a great drummer against the pain Fletcher inflicted on him. And there isn't a correct answer, anyways, only different perspectives with which you can base your own opinion on, with hopefully your own thoughts mixed into. We can empathize with both perspectives and learn from the other. It just seems that we have different thresholds for how much pain we will endure for a given passion or joy.
A personal example where emotional pain and self perception could be useful is that sometimes I just don't want to get out of bed. I think everybody can understand that. But after several days where I feel trapped in a cycle of being lazy and not getting anything done, I usually feel pretty bad. Once I start feeling the stress about that, I know that I'm being lazy, and this motivates me to get out of bed and get things done in order to achieve goals in my personal life. Super easy if you break it down this way, and ideally it should be this way. But what happens when the pain is just impossible to overcome? This is a tricky one, but you should become more tolerant of pain and understand why something can hurt you emotionally when it shouldn't. Although, what shouldn't hurt you is up to you to define, of course. For example, stop hurting when others think negatively about you when you don't see it as a problem, but do care if you are given a genuine reason to change, as we are imperfect. Suppressing too much pain could be very bad if you just ignore and bottle up these feelings. You need to genuinely not feel the pain. When it comes to self perception, stop trying to be perfect. Instead, accept that you are imperfect, but try to improve in what you believe you really need to change. We all mess up at some point in our lives. Some have bigger screw ups than others, but we believe that if you truly are sorry about what you did and ask for forgiveness when you hurt others, you should be fine. And we could and probably will make a video on that. But as Aunt May said, start by doing the hardest thing, forgiving yourself.
While going through different amounts of pain all of our lives, it may be daunting and a great journey to overcome it, especially when the journey just seems impossible. Let's imagine it with a mountain. At the beginning, it looks intimidating and you will want to give up several times. But we believe that with enough time and effort, everyone should be able to overcome any amount of pain. Little by little, by firing small barrels, you will be done faster than you think. If it keeps bringing you down, you just need more time. Remember that one's path to overcoming pain isn't always linear. You can fall down, but you need to get up. No matter when, but do it.
Compare and contrast. If someone told you or did something that really hurt you, try thinking about how true what they said really is, and learn to distinguish between what you control and what you don't. If someone calls you short, for example, well, even though it may be true, and on our case, it is true, it's something that you can just not control, which then you have to accept. A person who truly loves you, or at the very least cares and respects you, should be aware of your insecurities and not weaponize them against you. But that's a topic for another day. Basically, clear up and try to improve upon what you can and learn to accept what you can't. We say it as if the easiest thing in the world, but it's really not. Meditating and contemplating our flaws and our feelings has been a great way to keep in check where we can improve and where we can't. A good time for us to do this is in the shower or at night with little to no distractions. And celebrate and reflect upon your victories. A step forward is a step forward. Even if it's a baby step or a huge long jump, improvement should always be celebrated, especially if you have been struggling with a problem for a long time. Taking notes of what you did right can help you improve and give you tools to fight against a similar problem next time.
It is hard to be vulnerable, but we all are. Just be sure to trust who you are opening up to. Be it a father, a mother, a cool sibling, if you're lucky like us, a close friend, a therapist, or anyone else you trust. Will do the best as they can. Just remember, they won't fight the pain for you. They'll just do their best to do what they can do to help. If they do love you, even if that means just sitting by your side to be a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes you just don't know how to help another person. So if you're able to, make sure to share how you feel and how others might help you overcome your pain. But what worked for us can possibly work for anyone. So we advise you to think about how you have overcome pain, who has helped you, how you did, and how you can help others overcome pain too. Sometimes just talking about it does the trick, and being there while actually helping, showing you care, and connecting others to help is just about the best someone can do.
We would like to finish up this video by taking apart the quote we placed at the beginning of it. There's no such thing as a painless lesson. They just don't exist. Sacrifices are necessary, and you can't gain anything without losing something first. Although, if you can endure that pain and walk away from it, you'll find that you now have a heart strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Yeah, a heart made full metal. What we interpret from this quote is that sacrifices and pain are part of everything that is worth it in our lives. We shouldn't run away from the pain, as that wouldn't let you grow as a human. Instead, it will keep you trapped, upset, and with little to no possibility of growing up or changing. It will most likely knock you down at some point or several points. But once you learn to harness and learn to overcome pain instead of just running away from it or dwelling on it without actually trying to overcome it, it will reward you with the ability to overcome any obstacle in life. Our strength as humans, after all, stems from our ability to grow, which wouldn't be possible or would be very limited without pain. To those who haven't watched Full Metal Alchemist, go watch it right now. The quote will go even harder by the end of the series, and it will be easier to understand the meaning behind it too. We recommend Brotherhood is way more accessible and has the original ambition of the ending, which is very different from the one in 2003. We haven't watched the 2003 version too, so we plan on watching it.
Either way, as we have said throughout the video, physical pain and emotional pain are at its core a warning that there's something wrong or that there's something to be wary about. But that isn't all there is to pain, as it can also be a huge motivator in our lives, just as it can be a challenge to overcome so that we can grow as people.